What's up, Math 8? Nope. What's up, Algebra 1? Not Math 8, sorry. Today we are doing compound inequalities. We'll get into what that means. But our objective is to solve and graph inequalities that contain the word and or the word or. All right. Yeah, we'll get straight into that. So a compound inequality consists of two distinct inequalities joined by the word and or the word or. All right. So that's just an idea of what it is. All right, so they've got a couple of examples down here. Whoops, not in highlighter, preferably. But we have down here a couple of examples for you to look at. All right, so this one example is this one. Okay, it was a little bit confusing to me when I looked at it the first time, but so that's one example. This would be one that's an and. All right. So we have x is greater than or equal to 3. All right. Which is the red graph there. Then we have x is less than or equal to 7, which would be the blue graph or the second one. And then finally, the third one, the green one, that's the and. So that's the combination of the two, where we have x is greater than or equal to 3 and less than or equal to 7. All right. So as you can see, they've got like the dotted line here and the dotted line here. And you combine the two so that you have just this area here. All right, so that is an and. And then looking at the or, we have this box that I'm drawing over here. All right. So this one, rather than the two of them converging or coming together like this side did, this one, they're going to go apart. All right. So we have one of them is x is less than -2, is the red or the top graph. The second blue graph is x is greater than or equal to 1. And then the final graph at the bottom, the green one, is the combination of the two. So we have x is less than -2 or greater than or equal to +1. All right. So there's just a couple of examples of what those look like. All right, so just a couple of things to take note of. I think this right here is a pretty important thing to take note of because we're going to see it quite a bit. So basically what it says is that if you have x is greater than or equal to 3 and you have x is less than or equal to 7, so we have an and. All right. What we can do with that is we can write them as one inequality rather than as two. So we can combine them so that we have 3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 7. All right, so basically you're just going to always have that x in the middle. Okay, so we will go ahead, that's really it for that page. We'll go ahead and move on to the next page, and we will look at problem 1. So this one is just about writing a compound inequality. All right, so if we look at A, it gives us all real numbers that are greater than -2 and less than 6. All right, so for that one, we have for all real numbers. All right, so we've got greater than -2, and then the other part is less than less than +6. All right, so we have this. What I like to do is I just like to write the lower number. All right, that way I can go in order from least to greatest. All right, since we know this one is going to be an and, you can do -2 is less than n, and then we have over here the n is less than 6. All right, so this would be your full inequality. All right, you can also then graph this. All right, so if we're at 0, -2, +2, and you can pretend this is to scale. So we would have negative 2 is less than, so it should be an open circle. And then we have n, and then we have positive 6, and it's also just less than, so we have another open circle. All right, since n falls between those, and it's true when n falls between, we shade the space in the middle. All right, one thing you are welcome to do, if you prefer it, I know I usually prefer it. Hold on, this should not be there. There we go. So anyway, I personally prefer to graph first. All right, so I'll just write that over here real quick. So if you want, you can graph first. That's what I prefer to do. And the reason for that is I think it's easier to write your equation after you've already drawn out the graph. All right, but again, that is totally up to you. So the way I would do that on this one, if I have this same problem here, so I would do n is greater than negative 2 first. All right, so there's that. And then I have n is less than 6. All right, so there's that. And then we've got that. Okay, now I know that it is in between those, so it's wherever it overlaps. All right, so wherever it overlaps, I'm going to go ahead and shade. All right, and now I'm going to erase the stuff that isn't included, and that would be your graph. Okay, if we look at B, you can do the same thing with B. All right, so for B, we have all real numbers that are less than 0, so n is less than 0, or greater than or equal to 5. All right, so I would prefer to graph this, especially where you're not necessarily sure if you have one, and you're not entirely sure if, let's see, we can do 0 here. If you're not entirely sure if it's going to be an and or an or, that's especially where I prefer to graph first. Okay, and this is kind of why. But so I will go ahead and put the 0, and it's just less than, so it's not going to be shaded. And then n is less than, so it needs to go this way. All right, and then we have n is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, since it's equal to, I'm going to shade it. All right, and then I'm going to shade this way. All right, since it doesn't overlap, so no overlap in your graph, that means that it is an or statement. Okay, so go ahead and shade both sides. All right, and that would be your graph for part B. All right. Okay, so on your own, I want you to go ahead and just do 1A. All right, so take a second, do that, pause the video, and then resume when you're done. All right, so for problem number 2, we're looking at basically going the other way, right? So the last one we had 2 inequalities. We tried to make it 1. This one we've got 1. We're going to try to split it into 2, all right? And this is going to be the way you're going to want to do it whenever you have a variable like m here, all right? And you will see why. So we've got negative 3 is less than or equal to m minus 4, which is less than negative 1, all right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to split it into 2. So over here we've got negative 3 is less than or equal to m minus 4. The other side we have m minus 4 is less than negative 1. All right, now I can solve them both. Okay, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides for this one. So we're going to have 1 is less than or equal to m. All right, there's our inequality on the left side, and then the other inequality, again, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. That's going to leave me with m is less than positive 3. All right, and there's my inequality there as well. All right, so now I've got 2 inequalities. and then I can graph them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and draw out the graph. I see I've got 1 and 3, so I'm just going to do 0, 1, pretend it's to scale, and say that's 3, and then same thing on this side. All right, so now I'm going to graph them one at a time. I've got 1 for m, or 1 is less than or equal to m. Since it's equal to, I'm going to shade, and then it's, so 1 is less than or equal to m, which is the same as m is greater than or equal to 1. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and shade this way. Whoops, don't shade it, sorry. Don't know what I'm thinking there. So I'm just going to draw that line there, right? And then on the other side, we have m is less than 3. So we've got the 3 right there. It's less than, not equal to, so I'm going to leave it open. And since it's less than, I'm going to go ahead and draw it that way. All right. Next, I'm just going to shade in the overlap. All right. Erase the original. And there we go. That's our graph for this one. Okay. Go ahead and try got it problem 2. Try to do that one on your own. All right. So now we are going to look at a real world problem that would also pertain to this class. So you're going to see how you can calculate your grades. So to earn, well, I guess your possible grades. To earn a B in your algebra course, you must achieve an unrounded test average between 84 and 85, 84 and 86. All right. They have, by the way, the word inclusive here. That just means you don't have to memorize it, which is why I crossed it out, but that just means it's one of these where it's an and statement rather than an or statement where it goes apart. All right. So you scored 86, 85, and 80 on the first 3 tests of the grading period. What possible scores can you earn on the 4th and final test to earn a B in the course? All right, so we're going to go ahead and set this up. The minimum for earning a B, because that's our goal, is to earn a B. So the minimum is an 84. All right, so we can get less than or equal to or greater than or equal to an 84. All right, which means 84 has to be less than or equal to our score. All right, on the other end, we have that whatever we get would be less than or equal to 86, because that's the maximum score you can have and get for a B as a letter grade. They're assuming we're using B plus and B minus. So yeah. Anyway, so we got 86 plus 85 plus 80 on the first 3 tests. And then what possible score can you earn on the 4th and final test? That's our variable because we don't know what it is. So that would be x. And then we would divide all of that by 4, right? Because we're trying to get the average. Okay. So reminder, you take however many, scores you have for this one and divide it by 4. Or divide it by that number in order to find the average. So that's sort of the setup of this. All right, now we're just going to go ahead and solve this one out. So we have, I am not going to pretend like I'm going to do that in my head. So we have 84 is less than or equal to whatever it says over here. It says 251 plus x. And it's over 4 is less than or equal to 86. All right, now we need to multiply everything by 4, okay? Usually this means multiply both sides, but since there are technically now like 3 sides, you could say, we're going to multiply all 3 sections by 4. All right, that way we can keep our inequality. All right, so the 4s will cancel here. So we've got 251 plus x in the middle. All right, and then if I look over at what they have, it looks like they've got 336 and they've got 344. All right. Okay, so now I'm just going to continue solving. Subtract 251 from all three sides, you could say. It's a triangle problem, apparently. And then we've got x in the middle, which is what we want. All right. And then 85 on this side, on the other side, and 93. All right, so in order to score a B in the class, if you're just looking at test scores, you need to get between an 85 and a 93 on the test. All right. So between 83% and 85%, sorry, and 93% on final test. All right. So I want you to go ahead and do problem 3 on your own. So pause the video, do that. It's basically the same as the problem above that we just did. But I want you to go ahead and try that one out on your own. All right, so pause the video, do that, and we'll come back into problem number 4. All right, so for problem 4, this one we don't have a word problem. We just have 3t plus 2 is less than -7, or -4t plus 5 is less than 1. All right, so this one is already split into 2 problems, so we don't have to worry about doing that. But we do need to solve for both inequalities. All right, so same as if it was an equation, we are going to try to isolate the variables. So we'll have 3t is less than -9. Divide both sides by 3. We have t is less than -3. All right, so there's one side. The other side, we have -4t. Those cancel, is less than -4. All right, divide both sides by -4. All right, and then we have t is greater than, because we got to flip the sign when we divide by negatives. All right, and it's greater than 1. All right. So you can go ahead and graph that, because I guess that's really all it's asking us to do is find the solutions and then graph them. All right, so again, I'm going to graph first, but that would be all you have to write for this one, since it's not an and statement, and we already know it's an or statement. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and graph it. So we've got -3, 0, 1, -1, 3. I like to be symmetrical, you might notice. All right, so I've got -3. It is not equal to, so it's not filled in. T is less than -3, so it's going to go that way. All right, and then we have 1, not equal to, so not filled in, and it's greater than. All right, so that's going to be our graph. I'm going to go ahead and shade. If you don't want to shade like I just did and you like it when it looks neat, that's fine, but that's how I'm going to do that. And then that is it for that problem. So go ahead and try problem 4 on your own. I know this is a really long video, so hopefully you were able to make it all the way through. And then I will see you guys back in class. All right, see ya.